Welcome back to the Evolution of Mom. I am so excited to have someone in-house today that I'm so excited to introduce you to. This is Bonnie, and her and I have been friends for a while now. We could debate that back and forth, but a while we've known each other and have been close friends for the last few years now. And something very special about Bonnie is her personality. People are drawn to her. She is so fun, energetic, kind, loving. But I think what people don't notice about what it is that they're so drawn to is her self-assurance and her self-confidence. People are like, oh, I love Bonnie. And they can see that they like trying to figure you out a little bit. And I think that's what it is. I think there's this lack of recognition of confidence in themselves that they don't necessarily have, that self-assurance and that confidence that they see in you. And I think that's one of the most special things. People are so drawn to you. And so I just want to talk about confidence and how Bonnie has cultivated it, embraced it as part of her lifestyle, embraced it as part of her personality, and honestly has started to serve the world in this way. So welcome, Bonnie.
I'm so glad that you started like that, because we've been close friends for a couple of years now. And we actually went to high school together, and we were not in the same social circle. And it's quite funny because the social circle that Amy was part of, I recognized in high school as being the popular group. And my group recognized ourselves as being not popular. And we would have conversations, not we, but like me and my friends in high school, we would have conversations regularly talking about how it was weird that we weren't the popular kids, but we had lots of friends, which is what is popular. Like we'd have this conversation regularly. And I remember later in life identifying why that was and why I thought that this group over here was popular. And it was because of confidence.
Yeah.
And that's what that group of people had, was confidence. And that's what my group of friends was lacking. So I'm so glad that that's like how the introduction happened.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Excellent.
Give us a little story, Bonnie. Tell us about your confidence.
Yeah. So my name is Bonnie, and I am like swimming in confidence. It just drips off me. It radiates off me. And it comes from this belief that I have in my own competence. Like I just have this innate belief that like, oh yeah, I can do that. It doesn't really matter what it is. Oh yeah, I can probably do that. And I didn't always have that. So how did it start? I've just been on a long journey of building confidence, but what kind of brought it to my attention that it was something important and something that I had was when I was watching a documentary on Netflix. So if you have not checked it out, and I should have written down the name and I didn't, it's with Jane Fonda, and it's a documentary on feminism, second wave feminism. It's really excellent. In it, Jane Fonda, says this line about, I didn't realize that no was a full sentence until I was 60, or something like that. It wasn't until I was 60 years old that I realized no was a full sentence. That hit me in the gut.
I got goosebumps just hearing it.
Like whoosh, there was like a wall that hit me when I heard that. I thought, wow, yeah, it is a full sentence. And I haven't always used it as a full sentence. And so it brought me back to this time in my early 20s. So I have had a few boyfriends in my life. And when I was 20, I was dating someone, and he was a great guy. He's married now. He's still a great guy. And we were not a great fit. And I couldn't really articulate why to him, why we weren't such a great fit. And, you're 20, we're figuring out who we are. We're exploring various things. And we got to this point in our relationship where I dreaded the intimacy and the romance. Like I would want to watch TV until it was quite late, or like come home later hoping that he would already be asleep, because I wasn't in the mood, and I didn't want to have that kind of conversation and deal with the tension, the guilt, the anxiety. And so I would, sneak into bed, hoping that he was asleep. Hopefully he doesn't see this. I've never told him this. Sorry if you're watching.
You've established he's a great person.
I won't say your name out loud. And so I'd sneak in, hoping he's asleep. And when he wasn't and would go to make a move on me, because obviously when you're in a relationship, there's, supposed to be intimacy. I would have this conversation in my head where like, oh, do I articulate my needs? Do I say what I want? Oh, it's easier to just get it over with, which is terrible. That is not a healthy place to be in a relationship. And I never realized that at the time. I didn't know that that wasn't a great place to be. I kind of thought that I was alone in that. And so when I heard this line from Jane Fonda, it brought me back to that memory. And I thought, wow, well, there was a communication there, error there. We had a communication problem. Why? Well, I didn't have the language probably, but also I didn't have the belief in myself, and I didn't have the confidence in myself to recognize my own needs and to be able to articulate those needs. So this kind of all
came together. Sure.
There's a word for that. This all happened a couple of years ago. And since then, I've grown tremendously in my confidence. And looking back, there are specific things that I have done that allowed me to develop confidence that I can see. I can see the path of how I got this confident. And even more importantly, I can share that with people. I can get them to where I am, which is very exciting because I think confidence is really important.
It is. And I think it's so beautiful when we find something like that through our own personal journeys that we can say, hey, I can serve the world in this way now. So I think that's so beautiful that you're doing that. Going back to your story, I think it's so relatable. And I think a lot of women find themselves alone in those situations, and feel alone. But I think it's such a common thing. I know people in marriages that still are just like, you know what, I'm just going to roll over and say yes, even though I don't feel like it. I don't want to. And I think you're right. I think that comes from a lack of confidence in communicating your needs, in communicating all sorts of things. So I think that's a really beautiful example to start us off with. I have a question.
Okay.
Do you think people are born with it? Or can you cultivate it as well? Like, is it a natural thing, or can it be
Maybelline?
Something? Maybe she's born with it.
Yeah. Ooh, I hit something.
That's okay. That's good.
Great question.
Right?
Great question. And in my 20s, I was doing various kinds of personal development, and I would have said it's innate. You're born with it. You're naturally an extrovert. You're naturally a confident person. And since then, I have totally switched my belief system around that. I absolutely think that confidence is a skill, and that you can learn it, and that it can be taught 100%. And I think there's strategic things that you can do to build your confidence. But yeah, absolutely. I think I'm really leaning towards the idea that everything you can learn.
Oh, I believe so too.
Like, yes, there's evidence, nature versus nurture. We kind of all agree that everything's about 50-50, let's say, right? Just whoever you listen to, 50% is natural from your DNA, 50% is learned. Mm-hmm. That's great news, because guess what? 50% is from your environment and your experiences, and you can learn it. And so many people don't live up to their potential and just have this kind of fixation on, oh, well, that person, is naturally talented. Mm-hmm. We don't recognize that, sure, maybe there's some athletic ability, or there's some enhanced genome thing that you have that can like make you the fastest swimmer in the world. But 50% at least, you can still learn and grow. Mm-hmm. Tom Bilyeu talks about that a lot on his podcasts. I really like listening to his podcasts. Mm-hmm. He's a big believer in develop yourself and grow, and like you can learn skills.
And we've both been on quite the personal development journey over the last few years, and I deeply believe that you can learn into anything you're interested into. And yes, there's that comparison of, oh, they're just so talented at this, but we don't see behind the scenes what they're doing. I deeply believe that repetition and what you're doing like compounds over time to create what you're confident in. So you can absolutely create that. I've had, people come up to me after, let's say, a public speaking event and say, oh my gosh, you're so good at that. It's so natural. I work very hard on the presentations beforehand. I write them out. You should see my writing process. It's ridiculous. It's all over the place. Yeah, she's seen it in action. It's all over the place. And then I have to put it together and how it flows. And then I practice it over and over and over again. And I make sure that I do it in a way that I'm talking how I would normally talk. So I'm not having to like branch out even more. But I think we compare ourselves and compare confidence and actually let that take a hit to our confidence when we see people in their genius zone that they have worked so hard to get to. So I do believe that that compound effect over time, anything is achievable.
Yeah. I also think it can be achieved at any age.
Me too.
It really bothers me when people say, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks as justification for like negative behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. We sort of give grandparents and senior citizens, old people, a pass. Oh, well, they're old. They're set in their ways. No. No. Everyone can learn. You can learn.
Yes.
And that probably comes from a bit of like fear and vulnerability on my part, because I love learning and I love being able to grow. And I am not ready to believe that I'm going to be set in my ways.
Yes.
Yes. No, I need to still be able to learn and grow.
Yes. I actually never want to be the same person all the time. Like my goal is to be different the next year to the next year to the next year. Like I feel like early 2020 Amy wouldn't recognize early 2021 Amy. Like there's specific, yes, I also want to be that way. Yes, I want to be like sassy and crotchety in my old age for like my reasons, but I also want to continuously embrace growth. So yeah, I do think people get, well, this is just how I am. And we see that with people our age too, and younger, right? We do get set in our ways, and it's from external environments telling us this is who you are, this is what kind of traits you have, you can't grow out of that. But I don't think it's ever worth your time and energy to stick to an identity that doesn't serve you.
No.
Right? How can we get started, Bonnie?
Oh, I have like a million ideas now, and I've like written a little game plan. I'm the opposite of Amy. So she like has detailed her presentation and practices, and I wing it.
But you're good at it because you're swimming in self-confidence.
I'm swimming in self-confidence, but also I've practiced winging it.
Yes,
like it's
that too.
It's kind of the same, right? Like you have this process and you've practiced it. I practice the spontaneity. And so I have collected stories in my memory, and I've collected activities to do and ideas so that I can like pull them out as we need them.
Yes. Which is actually smarter.
Well, I don't know if it's smarter necessarily, because yours obviously works for you.
It does, but except for when I'm put on the spot in a different scenario, then I'm like, I have to think about it really hard for a minute. And I mean, if it's in my genius zone still of like women's health and things, yeah, I can pull stuff out, but I do think it's important to be able to build confidence in being put on the spot.
Yeah, I think so. So I can tell you where that comes from. So we can start there.
Go.
So one of the things, so I'm currently I do many things. One of them is I'm a dance teacher. And one of the dances that I teach is musical theater. So musical theater is singing, dancing, and acting. And in a dance environment, the kids already know how to dance. So I'm not teaching them dancing. We're working on acting and singing. And I'm not like, I can carry a tune, like I'm not a singer. And I play the flute and I like grade 2 piano. So I have a bit of music theory. So as you right, I just sort of like dabble in a few things, but the acting stuff and the improv stuff, that's where that spontaneity comes from. And that's how you can practice it. So this is what I'm doing with my kids in class is we are intentionally I'm intentionally putting them on the spot to think of ideas. And I think this is a great way for adults to learn all kinds of skills. So if you are an adult out there and you have kids, I think you should put them in musical theater. And if you're an adult out there, regardless of if you have kids and you want to work on a few things, I think you should take an improv class, would be my recommendation. Because it forces you to be silly. It forces you to get out of your comfort zone. It forces you to listen to other people, because improv is all about reacting to the situation. Yes, and is a common phrase that they say in the beginner beginner in, what am I talking about? Improv, thank you. The beginner improv world. And so that is a great place to kind of start building up these skills where you can get a little bit out of your comfort zone in a safe environment to build confidence. I totally lost track of what the question was and where we should go.
Well, we were just starting on how we can start cultivating, but I think that's a really good idea, because how many of us would it be so uncomfortable to be in improv? That would be me. In high school, they decided it would be fun and funny to trade our art class for a semester into the drama group, and then they would switch, and the drama kids were like, I don't know how to paint, and we're like, we don't want to act. They're like, good. Oh, it was so awkward, and I totally didn't participate because I was obviously too cool, but maybe I should have. Because that would be extremely uncomfortable for me. Like anytime even people want to like role play dialogue, even on like a business aspect or anything like that, like I get really uncomfortable for some reason. I can public speak, put me on a stage in front of hundreds of people, I'm okay. You ask me to like role play dialogue with you, not cool. Amy gets uncomfortable.
Interesting. So let's explore that a little. But like there's probably something there. There's a like, right, there's like a fear underneath there. And because I know you, I imagine that you are imagining what other people are thinking of how you've done
most likely
the improv.
Most likely.
So you've sort of evaluated in your mind, I'm totally guessing, but you've evaluated in your mind, like, this is what good improv is. I'm a competent person. I should be at this level already. Other people will like think poorly of me if I'm not at this level. Does that seem?
It probably hits my image ego.
So, and that hits me not in improv and spontaneity, but in other things. Like that's a very common narrative where we sort of project and imagine what other people are thinking, which is ridiculous.
Because they're not.
No. First of all, no one has time.
No one cares
to think about that.
Yep.
The people, so in this improv scenario, exactly, the people that are like maybe watching are thinking, oh my gosh, she's so brave. I can't believe I could never do that. Yeah. I could never do improv. Because improv is public speaking, which is the #1 phobia, as well as you don't know what you're talking about. Like it's already hard enough to public speak when you know what you're talking about, but to suddenly just like, tell me everything you know about red delicious apples.
They're red and they're delicious.
Nice. They grow on trees.
Sometimes you find them in orchards.
The seeds have cyanide in them.
Ooh, right? Getting deeper.
Yeah. I feel like that's true.
Yeah.
Don't fact check me on that. I feel like I've heard apple seeds have cyanide.
Maybe. I feel like I've heard something about apple seeds, but no, I think you're right. And I think there's a level of my competence would take a bit of a hit, because I know when I go up and do a public speech, it's probably going to be received well because I've had that feedback in the past. Whereas in this moment, it's like, yeah, it's definitely getting me out of my comfort zone. But what I love and what I have learned is how important it is to get out of your comfort zone, even in baby steps, to build that confidence and to build that reassurance and that self-assurance.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because I have a story too about how, and it's extreme. I do things in extremes. So you do not have to follow my exact example. You can sort of take it as inspiration and create a safer way to get out of your comfort zone. So I totally agree. Getting out of your comfort zone is how you grow. And you want to get out of your comfort zone enough that you're going to succeed, and not so far that you're going to sort of like paralyze yourself
and then like go so far back into your comfort zone and never come out again.
And turtle. Like, so you got to kind of pick your moment. So here's my story. So again, in my early 20s, I decided that extreme sports were for me, and with no evidence. I just thought, oh, that'll be great. I can obviously bungee jump. It'll be fine. And I was still nervous about it. So I was like, yes, I want to bungee jump, but will I actually jump off of a bridge? And so I decided that I would do the naked bungee. for a couple
to the extreme.
For a couple of reasons. First of all, I love saving money, and the naked bungee is cheaper than the regular bungee. So I could justify it by it was a discount. I had got it at a really good price. It was like my number one motivation when I was in my 20s. Second one was it was cheaper because it was a fundraiser. Oh, well, I'm doing this for charity, right? Like, so another kind of justification of why that I can do this. And then the third reason was because I figured it was going to be a really good mix of I'm afraid to jump, but I'm naked and I need to get out of this situation where I'm naked and everyone else is clothed. And so I figured that those two things would balance each other out. And then I would have this really great naked bungee experience. So my roommate at the time agreed to do the naked bungee with me. Woo! And so her condition was, we have to be first.
Fair.
We're not going to be there where there's like a lineup of people and we have to wait our turn. Like, we have to be there first. No problem. So it was in, on the island in Canada, West Canada. So near Nanaimo, somewhere there's the naked bungee. It's for schizophrenia awareness. If anyone else wants to do it. When I did it, it was like $30. And so I was the very first person to go, and it worked. Like, I had this, I was like, oh, this is like terrifying, but I'm also naked and there's no escape.
Down I go.
Like, I guess I'm going to jump. And it worked, but it also kind of backfired because turns out I really like bungee jumping and I really like to be naked. So, you know,
self-discovery.
It kind of had that effect, not cathartic, but it had that kind of effect, but also just let me know that I really enjoy both of those things.
But isn't that beautiful? As you go into the realm of discomfort, that's how you grow, because you discover either what you like and who you are, or you discover who you're not. Like, I already know that I am not a naked bungee jumper. I know that about myself.
Yet.
she's not convinced, but I think that that's the beauty of exploration. And I'm going to bring the age thing into it. I think as we age, we just get so set in, I don't need to discover who I am anymore. I don't need to do that. I think that's a mistake, because I think we should constantly always be discovering who we're not, which helps us create boundaries in where we want to go in life, and still playing around with the idea of there's still so much to discover that I could be.
Yes. And I think it's really important between your 20s and your 30s. I think a lot of people fall into, I don't want to say trap, because that's not really the word that I'm looking for, but fall into, let's say, a relationship in their 20s, and it gets really serious and things are going well. And those people don't really take the time to explore who they are and to figure out where their values lie and where their strengths are, what's important to them. And then at the same time, also don't communicate that with their partners. So obviously some people swimming along, totally fine, great communication. It's great. Some people, the relationship falls apart after years, right? We have a really high divorce rate years later. I know couples that, after their kids grow up and then suddenly, we don't have anything in common.
Yes, that's
and
very
I
common.
think my gut tells me that that's part of it, is you sort of didn't have, you got together early and young, you had kids really young, and you didn't explore who you were and what your values were and what your personal goals are, what your goals are as a couple. And then you've gotten to this point where you're not the same person as you were. And I think that's
you're not building that strength as an individual.
Yeah.
And don't panic. All hope isn't lost if you've come into this space, but you might come into where you start to notice in your marriage, you're only identifying as parents, or you're only identifying as a wife and a mother. And it's okay when you're in those roles to decide to step out for some self-discovery. That's actually basically what this podcast is all about, is mindset for women and helping women, dive into self-care. And, my platform is all about like health, hormones and things, and mindset is huge. And that's what I do mostly on the podcast. I bring people in that are going to help women with mindset. Why you're here. So, but don't panic. That's okay if you feel like, hey, that's me. I don't know who I am as an individual. Who am I outside of being a mother? Who am I outside of being a wife? I don't even know what I like outside of those things. I know women like that. I was one of them for sure. I completely fell into motherhood and, deciding I was someone who identified as someone who was chronically ill. And, it took a lot to break out of that and decide, what, I need to start doing self-care and self-love practices and deciding who I am and what I like to do as an individual, which has led to all of these beautiful things that I do now. So I don't think that's hopeless if you can recognize how important that is. If you and your husband come together in a strong individual to build the we, that's huge. And you guys can cultivate that even once you've melded together, and maybe you got together young, like Chris and I. That's our story. We got together in our early 20s. I had Maverick when I was 25. That's pretty young, right? And so we're now also, and I think your 30s are also this whole new realm of discovery.
Yes.
It's like all of a sudden
it's
you're
very exciting,
right? It is very exciting. I actually love my 30s so far.
Yeah.
But so Chris and I are making sure we're investing in that. Chris is doing his own growth. I'm doing my own growth, and we're also getting relationship coaching so we can come together. And I think that's important to say that that's okay. And you can still do this in whatever age you are at. I think it's important. I mean, like you said, I see people separating after their kids go, and I think you can do that even at that age.
Yeah.
Right? No ageism.
No ageism.
No ageism.
You can always learn.
Yes. No excuses.
Yeah. I think it's also really easy to fall into some of those identities.
Yes.
Because and this is my impression, that society, not rewards, maybe isn't the right word, but it sort of caters women to be moms, right? There's external pressures that make it okay. Oh, you're a mom, right? And so it's easy for us. First of all, it's a beautiful thing,
yes.
Right? So you get to be a mom, step one. But society also, I don't know how to articulate it very well, but it allows you to be a mom is maybe what I'm trying to say. And so, there's, for single women, especially sort of high-powered executive kind of types, they feel kind of a negative impression from society and looked down upon because they're not moms.
They've chosen a career
over
having this beautiful experience. First of all, you can have both, but there's also, it's okay to go that way.
Really, what's happened is us women have just allowed society to tell us things that we should just decide for ourselves.
Agreed. This is how you should be as a woman. This is how you should feel. I mean, we could go down that rabbit
trail. These are the pants that you should wear with no pockets.
These are the feminine products you should use that were designed by men. Like what?
That we're going to charge more money for you so you can spend more money than the men do on their deodorant.
I feel like we could do a whole podcast on this.
It's like a whole other topic.
Man. Bring it in, ladies. You know what we're talking about. Let's bring it back. How can these women start cultivating confidence so they can be that version of themselves that maybe they're hoping to identify as and hoping to seek and hoping to grow into?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love starting out, the very easiest thing is something that Ed Milet says. So another podcast that both of us listen to a lot. And he talks about how you build confidence by keeping the promises that you make to yourself. So this is a great starting place, I think, because you can choose what those promises are. So, sorry, let's back up a little bit. Before we do that, I think it's also important to recognize where you're already confident. So little kids are constantly learning, and they're constantly failing, and they're constantly learning, and they're constantly getting better, and they don't worry about confidence, right? So imagine toddlers learning to walk, like they just try, and then they fall, and then they try. And all the adults get really excited when they fall. And then we stop rewarding people for failure, which is another societal failure. Change that. And so that is helping them develop their confidence and like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I'll just pull myself up again and I'll just start walking again. Or like when we tie our shoes. So what adults can do, which I think is really cool, is think back and remember those moments of where they have competence. Like, where are you good at things already? And oh, well, I'm not good at anything, right? That's going to be the first little sentence that your mind says, to protect you from getting out of your comfort zone, right? It wants to keep you there. Oh, I'm not good at anything. Well, like you can probably tie your shoes.
Probably.
You can probably brush your teeth.
Probably very well.
Like you can probably make a sandwich.
Mm.
You know, there's a few things, and barring a few extreme examples of people that don't, you know, can't tie their shoes, because they're those that exists as well, there's going to be some things. So I think the first thing, thinking back, recognizing like where your strengths and your competences are, celebrating those is a good place to just kind of remember, wait a second, I am competent. I am confident. And then start building confidence by keeping promises to yourself. And what's beautiful about that is you can just decide what promises you're going to keep. So this is a very common thing that I think a lot of people do, is when they do to-do lists, then you also write down things you've already done that day so you can check it off, right? People do that. I do it all the time. Like, oh, what do I need to do today? Oh, well, I also need to brush my teeth. Check. I also need to do the laundry. Check. Or whatever it is you've already done. It sets us up for a winning streak, right? It gets us into momentum of winning. So that's where I would start. I would pick, 10 easy things. If that's overwhelming, pick 5. And it's like, made my bed. Or if you are not a bed maker, brushed my teeth. And pick easy things that you are going to commit to doing. Do those things and then recognize it, because that triggers the neurochemistry in your brain, the reward pathways, all of that goodness, to set yourself up to start building confidence.
Yes, keeping those promises to yourself. It's funny, I've mentioned that in the last couple episodes, actually. So how funny is that? I know. And it's those small wins that we need to celebrate that compound over time that create the big wins. It's the same with confidence. It all of that applies to anything you want to do. Yes, I love when you said earlier, we were talking like get outside your comfort zone so much sometimes that, the thing that was maybe just a little bit out of your comfort zone seems easier, but also make sure that it's something that you are going to succeed at when you're starting out. Don't make it so it's so comfortable that you're like cheating a little bit. It has to be something, but yes, I deeply believe in making sure that it's something simple. And I tell people to brush their teeth. Like, you tell yourself you're going to brush your teeth twice a day and then you don't miss. I don't care how tired you are one night, do it. And you crawl into bed and you're like, I'm so awesome. I did this thing that I didn't want to do. And then I did it and it was done. And it only took like a couple minutes. And look at here I am. And celebrate it. Yeah. It literally creates those pathways in your brain. So your brain learns to love to win.
Yes. And then the other thing that's really cool about that, I love that too, because I didn't write down in my little chicken scratch notes the winning streak. So I should have prepared more. See, this is why preparing is good, because then you know who says everything. So a couple years ago, I watched or heard about the winning streak guy.
He's Rocket something.
I don't know what his name is, and I haven't kept up with him. I saw his winning streak thing and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then I haven't followed the rest of his journey. But anyway, he started shouting out, I'm on a winning streak, whenever he had a little win. So his examples at the beginning are things like he bought coffee. He really enjoyed coffee. He had coffee. He's like, oh, I'm on a winning streak. And I thought, oh, I could do that. So I started doing that. And I did it every time I hit a green light when I was driving. So I was just alone in my car. If I hit a red light, I just wouldn't say anything. And if I got a green light, I was like, yeah, I'm on a winning streak. And I started to pay attention more to green lights because I wanted to be able to be on a winning streak still. And then it snowballed a little bit and I was on a winning streak for other things that were going really well. Got a sweet parking spot. Oh, I'm on a winning streak. And I kept doing that. And this must be that reticular activating system, right? So in your brain has a filter because it can't take in all the information that is available to you. You go mad, be craziness, right? All the smells, all the lights, there just needs to be a filter. And most people's filters are programmed by default or programmed by other people. And so what you see, what your brain sees according to this filter. So if we can program the filter ourselves, we'll start to see wins more than we see losses. And I think this is the same with confidence. If you start to look for where you're competent and where you're confident in things, your brain and your eyes are going to show you more examples because it wants to reinforce that belief. It want, the confirmation bias, like, oh, of course you can, tie two shoes at once because you can already tie one, or whatever the example is.
It teaches your brain to look for the things that you're taking interest in,
Yeah.
and then you're going to see them more. So being on a winning streak, it's like, oh, that my brain likes this. I'm going to look for more things that make me feel like I'm on a winning streak. And same with the confidence. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And what he did with the coffee is he turned it from like this negative connotation of, oh my gosh, it cost me $7.50 for this coffee. He switched it to, I'm on a winning streak. I got all of this joy and happiness and energy from this $7 coffee. I'm on a winning streak. And I can picture us saying it. We've said it for so long. And now I just like constantly say, I'm winning. Look at me win, right? Like it's just this whole thing in your brain. You can train it to start to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a perfect thing you can do for confidence.
And it's so easy. Like those two things, setting yourself up with like goals for the day that are easy enough that you can accomplish and you win, and then recognizing it for a win. Like that's grade 8 level mindset training, grade 8 level kind of, that we're all there. We can, all adults can do this, and kids can do it. So I have, my younger brother has autism, and he's been in the car with me sometimes. And I've caught him a couple times hitting the green light and going, oh, hey, Bonnie, we're on a winning streak, which is excellent. He also, if he's mad, then we hit a red light and he's like, we're on a losing streak. Oh, yeah. So like, it's a work in progress.
But those are things we can set up for our children as well. They mimic what we do. And so when I talk about how I'm winning all the time, my kids start to recognize that as well, just like in that example. And so I think that's such a good precedent for our children when they see us taking care of ourselves in this way and see ourselves celebrating ourselves.
Yeah. So good. So then we've got remembering where we were competent. We have, creating it slowly in our lives. There's other things that you can do, but then also, because I don't know how much time we have and I don't want to run out of time, we also need to protect and shelter our confidence. That's a really important piece of having confidence. Bless you. Gesundheit. What else can we say? Kampai. No, that's cheers. It's different. So protecting how can you protect your confidence? Well, first of all, you need to audit your life a little bit. Who are you listening to? Who are your friends? And are they supporting you in your confidence, or are they like taking away your confidence? So some people, especially high school friends, we're friends with people in high school because we go to school with them and we're there all the time. Yeah. It's not necessarily because we have a lot in common, right? It's kind of random chance, and we're here for 8 hours. We're stuck here. So we should probably be friends, right? And if you have your friends and you've grown this way and they've grown this way, you might not be in the same place. And it can be and especially women, I can't speak to it for men, but especially for women, we like to tear each other down a little bit. Somehow that helps us build our self-esteem, where we poke, right? And then the consequence of that, and you're guilty of this, I know, the consequence of that is you dim yourself a little bit around those people. Yeah. Right. You have something really exciting that you want to share in your job or in your relationship, but you know that your friend is having a hard time, or it's going to make your friend feel bad. And so you don't talk about it. Yeah. You take yourself from, even maybe you're celebrating something and you show up at this person's house, and now you have to feel like you have to come down here instead of staying up here and knowing that person's going to actually have to come up to your level. It's a whole mindset shift. But yeah, I used to dim my light a lot. Yeah. So do you drop all those people? No, I'm not saying abandon all of your friends, but it's important to recognize who those people are. Who are the people that do lift you up and do celebrate the wins with you, and spend more time with them. Yes. If you can cut those kind of people out, then yes, do it. If it's family, it's a little bit harder. So, that's kind of up to you to decide, but it is really, really important to recognize the environment that you're putting yourself in. And is that helping lift your confidence? Or is it, women also like to do like backhanded compliments, right? And then you're thinking like, oh, that's not, and I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but
any woman's going to know what you're talking about.
Right. Though. It's like, we just, oh, that's a nice shirt for being on sale. No, that's not right. I don't know.
But I know what you mean. Yes. We seem to think that it's going to allow us to be bigger, better, brighter by dimming someone else. That's a very bad pattern that women get into. And so I absolutely encourage you to use discernment on who is having influence in your life. Like you said, you don't have to drop these people, but learn to create boundaries when you're with them so that they don't have that level of influence over you. You can stay in your integrity, you can stay in your confidence, you can stay in your self-assurance because you've worked hard on building it and you learn to stay there. And that's actually one of the greatest ways to start testing that, is going into scenarios where normally you would dim your light. Normally you would lessen those boundaries or not celebrate something, or not, let your confidence shine, like go down a little bit, because you're allowing space for the person who, the unconfident people and the bitter people tend to speak the loudest. But honestly, when you keep your boundaries up and your integrity up, they almost are forced to match your energy, because you used to come down and match theirs because you weren't in the know of how that works. But you can actually, when you stay in yours, it either forces people to come up, or they just get really uncomfortable and they kind of just float away.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother chat about boundaries. But I think that's a really important point to articulate again and reinforce, is that when you are on a journey of personal development, or you're building your confidence, and you're going to feel great and you're going to change a little bit, that might be scary for some people in your circle, and you might feel some pushback because people are used to you being who you were and who they know you to be, and maybe who they need you to be. And so if you find, you don't want to have a little bit of pushback and go, oh, well, I better just stay where
abandon ship, go back to who I was.
Yeah, no, don't do that. That's essentially movement and friction in physics, right? To get something into motion, there's going to be more friction. That's how physics works. Like grade 11 physics. Thanks.
Nailed it.
Right? I'm sure that's science. But there's potentially going to be pushback from people who are like, oh, you don't usually speak up at work.
Oh, you've changed.
Yeah. Like,
you've changed. I always just say, thank you. I've been working real hard on it.
That's good. That's confidence right there. Right.
That was
being
built,
able
though.
To
not used to do that. Right.
Yeah. That was, I know the next thing is going to be socks and sandals, right?
Oh,
in public.
That's like her challenge for me to build my confidence around image issues that I have.
I could care less about socks and sandals.
It's beautiful. It's so inspiring and beautiful. Her self-confidence.
I don't have the time. I don't have the time to care if people like socks and sandals. Like, some people get really bothered by it. It's very faux pas. I just don't care.
See, but that's just it. We don't have time.
No,
if you're on a mission, if you're growth driven, if you have goals, if you're even just in this sense of, hey, I'm ready to be the better version of myself, you don't have time to care about the negativity. You don't have time to care if you're wearing red sandals and purple socks. You don't.
Oh my gosh, that triggers another story.
Last one. Go.
I know, and I don't want to tell that one because I have another one that I wrote down.
Okay, we'll save it because there's something special Bonnie's got.
Oh, yeah,
for all of you.
Yeah, purple socks. My purple socks story. Okay, no, so I do want to go back though. Shoot, and I should have done it earlier. You were talking about something. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really great. Darn. I'll just start talking about what I wanted to say, and hopefully we'll be able to we will swing it back,
fly into it.
But what you said reminded me of something that I read somewhere talking about. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Brene Brown who talked about it, I think. And she had said she was talking about Buddhist monks and where boundaries. It's talking about boundaries. Mm-hmm. So you set boundaries, and then you get this pushback. And how can you manage that? And so the way that Buddhists manage their boundaries is through compassion, which I thought was really interesting. And so when you are, you can hear people where they're at, and you can, have compassion for them without buying into the negativity. And so this Buddhist monk said, someone asked this monk, well, how do you do that? How do you not take on the negativity? And the response was, oh, I just don't accept that gift, which I thought was great.
I love that.
I just don't accept that gift.
Yeah.
And so that also is confidence, right? That right there saying, oh, I can see you where you're at. I recognize that the negativity that's coming toward me isn't really about me. And I'm compassionate for you, and I can put this up, and I don't actually have to internalize that and take that. And it's funny too, I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, how we tell people that all the time. We tell people, oh, well, it's not really about you. You know, that's something that, you know, the bullies that are just really angry inside. Like, we have this narrative, especially when we talk to kids about it. And it's hard to hear, even though it's true. Like, it's taken me such a long time to recognize the truth in that. And it's actually stopped me from going on YouTube. So I had thoughts earlier than now about going on YouTube, and I wasn't prepared for the hate in the comments.
Right.
And so I just decided and took the easy way out that, you know what, maybe I just won't go on YouTube.
Oh.
So like, even though I'm dripping in confidence, there's still little things that I could do to get out of my comfort zone. And here I am on a podcast. Woo! Is this on YouTube? We could put it on YouTube. And
it is on YouTube.
Okay.
There you go.
I didn't know
Bonnie's
that.
officially on YouTube.
I think I'm past that. I think I'm past the comments now. But there was a time when like that, the imagined confidence, right? Comments. I just heard people were sometimes negative on YouTube. And I thought, oh no, I can't handle it.
Isn't that funny how we project into our future what we think is going to happen and how we'll react, but we don't actually know until we get there. So you can't do that. You got to do it. You got to try anyways.
And what a waste of time.
What a waste of time. You don't have time for that kind of negativity. Oh my gosh. Okay. Bonnie is swimming in confidence, and she has a lot of techniques that can help you. She actually has a way to even take you down like the neurophysical side of it as well, and how your body chemistry works. So she is running a 5-day boot camp here pretty quick, and it is a free boot camp. She's going to give you all the things you need, tell you all the things you need to participate in this boot camp when she launches it. But I think it's something you all should watch for, because I think it's going to be really great. She's going to do it on Facebook. So I'll make sure I have her Facebook, whatever it's called.
It's going to be a group. I'll give the link over. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cultivating the link. Cultivating confidence. I'm really excited. It's the first time I've run it, and it's going to be, sorry, I totally cut you off.
No, go.
It's going to be like a series of challenges every day. And there's going to be like a reporting, I think. I don't have it entirely super planned because I already spoiled it by saying that I was very much a spontaneous person. I'll plan a little. And there's going to be levels of challenge too, because I recognize like, okay, go public speak naked is maybe not everyone's.
Probably not.
Right. Also probably illegal.
Like, maybe.
There's very few places where you're allowed. Like a nudist colony, it's probably fine, but like everywhere else, keep things legal.
Perfect. So no one panic. She's not going to make you do that.
No
There's
nudity.
going to be some discernment there. So
it's you know what it is? It's a choose your own adventure challenge.
Ooh, see,
right. So there's going to be like 3 levels of challenges, but they're all going to be getting out of your comfort zone. Choose which one scares you a little bit, but it's still safe that it's going to be a win for you.
So I highly encourage you to do this, because this might not seem like it makes sense to do for whatever goal you have for this year, but it actually makes the most sense. It makes the most sense to start training yourself to keep promises to yourself, to build self-confidence, which builds that self-worth. It's kind of it's a feedback loop. I feel like confidence and self-worth, they have to feed each other. And so all of those things play into any endeavor you are doing in your life right now. This is a very good base to build from. So I highly encourage you to check out this 5-day challenge that she is going to do.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone needs it in some level.
No, it's free, no commitment.
Yeah.
Well, other than do it.
It's going to be fun too.
And it's going to be fun.
Obviously.
I only do things that are fun. What a waste of time.
And that should also be everyone's attitude. Actually, I know a couple people where that's their goal for the year. They're only going to lean into it if it's joyful and fun for them.
That's so great. And I say that I only do things that are fun, but I also like do a lot of dishes and they're not fun. So like I have not mastered
how to make dishes
only
fun.
Doing things that are fun, but I want to join up that group.
Yeah.
2022, only things that are fun.
I agree. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Bonnie, for being here and sharing all your wise wisdom with us. I can't wait for this to release. I'll make sure you can find Bonnie in the comments, and we will see you next time. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Bye.